The year was 2014. I was 23, studying math and singing my heart out. I loved music and movies, especially sci-fi. That night, July 9th, I was watching Back to the Future for the 5th time. I just wanted to laugh with good old Doc, to hear those lines that, even today, feel like part of my personal gospel.
Great, Scott. Hey you, get your damn hands off. Roads? Where we're going we don't need roads.
Just another night like any other. Or so I thought. Because at a certain point... the epiphany! Wait, no. I must be wrong. There's no way I just found a plot hole. Right? Right? More than half of the second movie would have to go straight down the drain. It would stain the otherwise spotless record of one of my favorite sagas. Hold on. Stop. Calm down. Breathe. Let's take it step by step. Time travel is a narrative device widely used in modern science fiction. The first to make it a pivotal element in a story was H.G. Wells in 1895 with the novel The Time Machine. Cinema, of course, is full of films built around this concept. Just think of 12 Monkeys, The Butterfly Effect, Predestination, Primer, Looper, Tenet, the more recent Doctor Strange and Avengers Endgame, and of course, the Back to the Future saga. But how does time travel actually work in Back to the Future? Let's use the first movie as our case study. The protagonist of this story is Marty McFly, a kid in the 80s living a pretty normal life. School, rock music, and a few family issues. His father, George McFly, is insecure, shy, and unable to stand up for himself. He works with Biff, who openly bullies him even as an adult. George has never been brave enough to push back, and that leaves him frustrated and passive in life. His mother, Lorraine, is very different from how she was in her youth. In the present-day 1985, and notice how flipping the 9 and the 8 gives the publication year of The Time Machine, she's unhappy, disillusioned, and has developed a drinking problem. She often dwells on the past and how things have turned out with George, almost as if she settled for him. Marty's best friend is Doc Brown, an apparently cuckoo scientist who has built a time machine using a DeLorean, model DMC-12. But that night, in the midst of an experiment with the time machine, the duo is attacked by the Libyans, terrorists. In the chaos of the escape, Marty is accidentally sent hurtling back through time, landing in 1955. Here, the boy meets the younger versions of his parents, but unintentionally interferes with their very first encounter. To save George from an accident, he gets hit by a car driven by Lorraine's father. But that moment was supposed to be the key event that brought his parents together and eventually made them fall in love. Instead, it's Marty who meets Lorraine Baines for the first time. This creates a serious problem. If his parents don't meet and fall in love, Marty and his siblings will never be born. While trying to secure his own future, Marty also has to convince a younger Emmett Brown to help him get back to 1985. The biggest obstacle is that the time machine requires an enormous amount of energy, something Marty can only obtain by harnessing a lightning bolt that will strike the clock tower just a few days later. In the meantime, Marty manages to bring his parents back together, helping George find the courage to win over Lorraine's heart by standing up to Biff and saving her from his assault. The future seems restored. His parents will end up together and eventually give birth to Marty and his siblings. With perfect timing, Marty intercepts the 1004 lightning strike and makes his way back to 1985. There, he discovers that his actions in the past didn't just restore the present, they actually improved it. His family is wealthier, his father is more confident, and his parents seem much closer and happier together. The film ends with Doc returning from the future with a brand new adventure, hinting that the time travel escapades of our heroes are far from over. Very well. With the plot fresh in mind, we're ready to list the 3 rules of time travel according to Back to the Future. Number 1. The DeLorean travels along a single timeline. The car doesn't let you choose alternate realities or branching timelines. It simply moves through time within one reality, the current one, which constantly updates. Number 2. If you change the past, the future gets rewritten. We see this, for example, with Marty's photo starting to fade away, as well as his own hand while he's playing the guitar. Number 3. When you travel through time, you arrive in the updated present. As shown in the movies, if you change something in the past and then travel back or forward in time, the reality you land in has already been reshaped by those past actions. To sum up, it's as if changing something in the past creates a new version of the future, cutting off any chance of returning to the one you came from. The exact moment Marty saves his father from the accident, he fundamentally alters the future as he knew it. In fact, even though he later manages to make sure his parents fall in love, he still returns to a future that's different from the one he remembers. Sure, it's a better one for his family, but it's still not the same. It's as if he has created a new branch of the timeline, with no way back to the original. Because remember, the DeLorean always takes you to the future that unfolds from that exact moment you start traveling. And if you've tampered with the past, you cannot return to the previous version of that future. Alright, are you ready to see why, by this same logic, the second movie completely falls apart? I'll walk you through the plot up to the critical moment. At that point, pause the video and try to figure out for yourselves why what's happening creates a problem. As we saw at the end of the first movie, Doc, Marty and his girlfriend Jennifer travel forward to 2015. Jennifer is portrayed in the second film by Elizabeth Shue, whom many of you might recognize from the TV series The Boys. Here, they find themselves in a future filled with flying cars, hoverboards, androids and the famous self-lacing Nike mag. But for our heroes, this isn't a pleasure trip. Doc explains to Marty that his future son will be framed for a crime he will not have committed, and they're there to prevent it. Tempted by easy money, Marty buys a sports almanac containing the results of games up to the year 2000, planning to use it to get rich once back in 1985. But Doc is fuming. He gives him a serious lecture, reminding him how messing with the past can lead to disastrous and unpredictable consequences. Then he snatches the almanac from Marty's hands and throws it into the trash can. Unbeknownst to them, however, the old Biff has been eavesdropping on the entire conversation, and eager to change the course of his life, he starts plotting a plan. While Marty and Doc try to prevent Marty Jr. from being framed, Biff sees the time machine right under their noses and travels back to his 21-year-old self. After completing their mission, Marty, Doc and Jennifer return to the car, which in the meantime old Biff has brought back, and head to 1985. But to their shock, the present is completely different from how they remember it. Poverty, massive social inequality, and widespread decay. Meanwhile, everything seems to be going incredibly well for Biff. Did you catch the problem? If you want, pause the video and think it through.
2 hours later.
Alright, let's break it down together and see why what just happened should be impossible, based on the rules established in the first film of the Back to the Future saga. We have just seen that old Biff Tannen steals the DeLorean, travels back in time, and gives his younger self the sports almanac. Now, we know he succeeds, because when Emmett Brown, Marty McFly and Jennifer Parker return to 1985, their reality is completely different. That's because Biff managed to use the almanac to change his future. This happens because, according to the first film's rules, and following the first film's rules, Biff didn't just change the future, he created a new timeline, an alternate branch, different from the one that originally led Doc, Marty and Jennifer from 1985 to the 2015 where he stole the car. And this is exactly where the problem lies. Because when Biff returns from 1955 to 2015, he shouldn't be able to go back to the future where he came from, the one with Jennifer, Doc and Marty. He should end up in the 2015 of the new timeline, just like the trio ends up in the alternate 1985 when they travel back in time. Now, some might argue that, like in the first movie, changes to the past don't instantly affect the future, but instead they propagate like a wave, gradually rewriting events over time. Which means that events in the nearest future will change first, and events in the farthest future will change last. After all, in the first film, Marty has about a week in 1955 before he starts disappearing. And yes, this sounds reasonable, but it doesn't hold up, and let's see why. First objection: the DeLorean doesn't seem affected by this time wave propagation. It always lands in the updated reality, so old Biff should have arrived in the modified 2015, not the original one. Second objection: if the first objection was false, then the DeLorean could outrun this wave, and could land in a reality that hasn't been updated yet, and will get up to date only after some time. But the numbers don't add up. Marty is 17 in 1985, so he was born in 1968, as confirmed by unofficial sources, which place his date of birth on July 12, 1968. When Marty saves his father from the accident, the wave that will reshape the future begins, eventually leading to his own disappearance. From that moment, about 6 days pass before Marty starts to fade, because the wave is catching up with 1968. That means that the wave takes about 6 days in the past to update 13 years in the future. So, how is it possible that Marty instantly stops fading the moment George kisses Lorraine? By this logic, the effect should take days, not seconds. And even ignoring this fact, how could the wave have already reached 1985, less than an hour after the dance, when Marty takes the DeLorean to go back to his present time? If the theory were correct, he should have returned to the original 1985, the one he came from, with changes appearing only some time later. But that doesn't happen, reinforcing the idea that the DeLorean always lands in the already updated reality. Third objection: old Biff spends about 1 day in 1955 to deliver the almanac to his younger self before returning to 2015. If the wave theory applied, even partially or non-linearly, to the DeLorean, then Doc, Marty and Jennifer shouldn't have arrived in the altered 1985, but in the original one, because there simply wouldn't have been enough time for the changes to propagate forward. So, even if we accept the time wave propagation idea, one of the three things must be true. Either Biff returns to an alternate 2015 after having delivered the almanac, and not the one with Doc, Marty and Jennifer, or at the end of the first movie, Marty should have returned to the original 1985, with changes caused by tampering with 1955 appearing only days later, or, in part 2, the trio should have landed in version A of 1985, with Biff's changes to 1955 affecting 1985 only afterward, but none of these happen. And that's all, folks. Now, I genuinely don't understand how the writers missed such a massive plot hole. Because sure, it took me 5 viewings at age 23 to notice this incongruence. But I mean, the more I think about it, the more I struggle to find an explanation for Biff returning at minute 40 of the second movie on timeline A, when just a few moments later the trio, going back in time to 1985, ends up in a completely different reality. I tried, but I really cannot reconcile these two events. But hey, if you've got a theory, drop it in the comments because I'd love to hear it. Hope you enjoyed this first video, and see you next time!